Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Debunking Fitness by Kay. I am Kay. Also, my name is Kirsten, so I respond to either. But welcome. It's been a couple of weeks, a little busy for me, but we are back swinging, ready to go, and ready to come at you with a new episode this week. So I am your fitness guru. I am your main source, main point of contact for any fitness, nutrition, and health related questions. And I am here to debunk myths and make losing weight, gaining muscle so much easier for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So this week, my episode is mainly going to be about just frequently asked questions that I've gotten or that I've seen on any social media or questions that my clients have asked me. So just a little bit of context and background for you. So I am a nutrition coach. I'm also a personal trainer and an athletic trainer. So my main background, my main bread and butter has always been working with athletes to help them live healthier lives, recover from injuries, and kind of guide them back to having a healthy body. And then that's kind of transitioned into helping everyday people with that same thing. So living healthy lives and guiding them towards having a healthy and happy body and mind. Anyway, so that's a little bit of background about me. And I am so excited for this episode. So we're just going to start off swinging. And it's going to be a little bit more unstructured this week, but um, I am excited for it. So, first question that I've gotten or that I've heard before is how long should my workouts be? So this is a really good question just because I have gotten a lot of people who have told me before, like, that they feel like they need to work out for at least an hour every single day or whatever it may be. In order to see any real results. But to be fair, that there is like a sweet spot between the workouts, but anything is better than nothing. So if you are working out for 10 minutes, that is better than 0 minutes. Okay. So truly, your workout length should be whatever you feel like you're able to do. If you can only do 10 minutes, perfect. But shooting for at least 150 weeks or 150 minutes a week of traditional strength training is the ideal um for like a what is that called? Basically, it's like the published standard. I don't think it's by the FBA, but like it's by some governing agency. Basically says like 150 minutes per week is minimum to maintain an active, healthy lifestyle. Of course, you can do as much as you want. Just make sure that you're fueling properly. Um, and if you do less than that, then like you're still doing something. But anything I think is better than zero. So truly, if you can only do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, perfect. If you need to split up your workouts, perfect. Because the whole goal of a workout is to have some strength training, use your muscles, have some resistance in them so that they are being trained to gain in strength and size. Um, and then also to get your heart rate pumping. So have a little bit of cardiovascular health within the mix. So there is no real answer of how long your workout should be. But personally, with my clients, I always do minimum of 30 minutes. And if they want one longer, they can absolutely do one longer. I can write one that's longer, but the majority of my clients are like, I've never worked out before in my life. I can't do an hour workout. I'm like, fair, totally great. I typically do an hour and a half, just because I take a lot more rest because I'm working towards strength endurance. So, but yeah, 30 minutes. That's like your goal. But if you do less, shoot for something. So next question that I typically get, that I've gotten before is it better to work out in the morning or in the evening? When's the right time to work out? Is there a bad time to work out? When should I avoid it? And again, truthfully, there is no right or wrong answer because resistance training and strength training happens at any point of the day, and there's no good point, and there is also no bad point. It is still strength training either way. The only factor that I would suggest otherwise is if you are a morning person, work out in the mornings because you're already up and alert and ready. If you're a night person, work out in the nights because you're more prone to have more energy in the evening. So if you are a night owl like myself, ain't no way am I waking up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. Like that is not sustainable for me, and I'm not going to do that. Okay. But I can go to the gym at 10 p.m., which is crazy, but like that makes more logical sense to me than going at 5 a.m. Okay. But there are like some slight studies that show like if you work out in the evening, sometimes it can make you a little bit more alert, but that is dependent on a lot of factors. Like if you're taking pre-workout at 9 p.m., like, yeah, you're probably going to stay up really late. But if you do a really heavy workout in the evening, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be like absolutely exhausted, and sleep is going to come so much better and easier and faster for you. So that one truly depends on your preference and what is sustainable for you. And if you're someone who like really struggles with going to the gym and the only time that logically makes sense for you to go to the gym is before work at 6 a.m. And that's the only time you're really going to get it, because whenever you get home from work, it is parent duty, it is chore duty, or you work 12-hour days. And all you want to ever do whenever you get home is go to bed. Doing it a little bit earlier in the morning will help you stay consistent. So that is my advice for that one. The next question that I get pretty frequently is how can I build muscle and lose fat at the same time? And so this one is really surrounding your nutrition more than anything. Building muscle and losing fat is absolutely possible. People do it all the time. I do it all the time. And sometimes it can trick people who are looking for some massive weight loss into thinking that they're not making any progress because they're not seeing the scale moving. But in reality, they are gaining weight and losing fat at the same time. So their body kind of tends to stay in that equilibrium state for a hot second. But anyway, so building muscle and losing fat is done with nutrition and with resistance training. So if you're going to the gym and lifting weights, that is resistance training. Resistance training, it quite literally just means you are using the muscle against a weight or a resistance. So if you're doing dumbbell curls, that's resistance training. If you're doing a squat, that's resistance training because your body and your muscles are working against a weight and being resisted for that movement with the weight. Typically, cardio exercises are not resistance training, that's endurance training, just because your heart rate is so elevated when doing cardio that it tends to activate your a different energy storage in your body, and it will still work out your muscles, but it'll be activating different muscle fibers that with a muscle or with fat loss are what am I trying to say here? With fat loss, your muscle kind of requires a little bit or not your muscle, your body requires a little bit more it requires like different muscle fibers, I would say. Endurance uses glycogen stores and not necessarily active carbohydrate stores. And then when doing resistance training, your heart rate stays low enough that it activates your type 2 muscle fibers, which are your strength muscle fibers, which tend to require more energy because they are bigger in size than your endurance muscles. Anyway, without getting into the whole specifics and physiology of all of that stuff, because it is very complicated. The other half, the nutrition half of building muscle and losing weight, is to be in a calorie deficit, which I've talked about before. And there is always a lot of confusion around a calorie deficit. But a calorie deficit is quite literally eating less calories than what your body requires. But the tricky part comes in whenever you don't actually know how many calories your body requires. And so it takes a lot of guesswork from you because you're like, I don't know, this is what I normally eat, so I'll just eat less or whatever. And then you kind of get into a problem where you're eating too little and then your body is not functioning properly anymore. And then your body is focused on getting energy to make sure your organs are working as opposed to losing weight. Your body is not prioritizing losing weight, it's prioritizing its function, foremost. So that true deficit comes from knowing what your total daily energy expenditure is, or your TDEE, and then eating about 300 to 500 calories less than that for about 3 months ish. And then you'll do reverse dieting back up to that maintenance, sit at that maintenance for about a month or two, and then again, drop down from that maintenance, which is your TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure, and drop back down to about 300 to 500 calories less. It does take a lot of patience as well, because fat loss typically is a pound a week is the healthy amount. Any more than that, and it's not sustainable. Any more than that, your body has a higher chance of gaining it back or hitting a plateau faster. So it kind of creates a little bit of a problem if it's a little bit higher than that. So best way to do it to reduce any frustration, heartache, headache, all of the above, is to figure out what your body burns normally in a day, including all of the activities you do and just living, and then taking that down 300 to 500 calories for about 3 months, and then going back up to what your body lives at daily. And then kind of repeating that cycle until you get to the weight loss that you want. But as long as you're doing resistance training during that whole time, you will build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. Your body does not use muscle primarily as an energy source unless its energy storages are completely depleted, which if you're eating a balanced diet, that will not happen. So your body is more prone to gain that muscle and lose fat because fat is an energy source in the body. Muscle is not. Anyway, long-winded question, or long-winded answer to a question, but it's a really good question. And it's truly the one I feel like I see the most. And so I'll do one more question for you. Let's see. How do I avoid injuries during exercise? This is my bread and butter. This is my absolute favorite because this is what I feel like I'm the most knowledgeable on. Okay, so how do you avoid injuries during exercise? No one wants to get hurt. No one wants to be out from doing gym exercises or any exercise at all for an extended period of time. So the best way to do this is to not overextend yourself, and to make sure that you're not lifting heavier than your body actually can lift. And what I mean by that is don't hit a PR every single time you go to the gym. That's putting your muscles at a high risk of being strained because you're constantly requiring more from them every single time you go to the gym, which I'm assuming is like at least every day or every other day, right? And so you got to allow your body to recover, recuperate, and to build up that like the structures within your muscles again. Every time you go to the gym and use your muscles, the way that they grow is they're being torn and rebuilt very microscopically, truly. You would not know a difference at all, but that's how muscle growth happens. So making sure you don't overextend yourself, and then also making sure that your form is correct. A lot of people, whenever you add on weight, they tend to have worse form. So before you add weight onto any exercise, make sure your form is superb. Make sure it is perfect. And the way to do that, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. You can talk to a fitness coach like me, and we can help correct your form. Because whenever you're lifting with bad form, you can put stress into certain body parts that don't normally have that load of stress on it. And it can cause that injury to happen because it has a lot more weight at a weird angle, and can just damage any structures. For example, I'll start with one that I feel like a lot of people suffer from, which is back pain, low back pain. Low back pain is most likely from disc pain, which discs are the little jelly donuts in between every single spine facet, and your spine is a bunch of little bones that are all stacked together and has its own curves, right? And so in between every single bone, you have a little jelly donut, basically, which is just like a fibrous, squishy, gummy little circle that keeps your bones from hitting each other whenever you have compressive forces within your spine. And so whenever you're doing a deadlift, for example, if you do a deadlift without bracing your core and having a straight back, your back can kind of curve outwards like this when lifting it and kind of do like a little U shape. And so your lower spine, here, we'll do it like this. Your lower spine curves inward this way, correct? And then whenever you are doing a deadlift incorrectly, it can cause it to go out the other way, which can put a lot more strain on those discs in an unnatural way and can cause them to squeeze out. So it's a little jelly donut and a little bit of the jelly inside can squeeze out. And then it can push against your spinal cord and cause a lot of pain in your legs and in that lower back. And so when lifting with proper form, you keep that natural curve or have it be straight, either or, but you keep that natural curve, your natural curve right this way. And so it will prevent that possibility of the jelly donut contents, the jelly on the inside, from squeezing out. I hope that made sense. It's a very complex subject. But yeah, so when lifting with proper form, you can prevent your body from having stresses in those areas that are not natural for it to have stresses in, and can prevent your body from failing, basically. But yeah, so best way to avoid injury is to don't overextend yourself, don't lift too heavy, and by too heavy, I mean like don't lift weights that your body is not adapted to, and that your body cannot sustain over a 10 to 12 rep period, or lifting weights with bad form. Okay. And you can always work your way up in weight. There's no cap, truly. Keep lifting heavy, keep lifting strong. I hope that you've gained something from this episode. Hopefully you learned something new. And as always, since it is debunking fitness, I love talking about ghost stories as well. So I do have a paranormal encounter for you that is called Please Help Figure Out What's Following Me. And so I'm just going to read it here for you. Again, this is on Reddit. I love Reddit stories. I love hearing what people are experiencing in their lives and in their worlds, and just putting my own opinion on it. All right. So this one is a little bit lengthy, but stick with me. All right. I'm 18, non-binary, and I have a problem that just became very real, and I need help figuring out what to do. I'm Wiccan, and so are my roommates, but I don't do much practicing, though they do a lot. I'll try to explain everything the best I can, but I have multiple learning disabilities and struggle with grammar, spelling, and wording. So if anything doesn't make sense, please let me know, and I'll try to clarify. I have talked to many psychologists and therapists, and I don't have schizophrenia or any other kind of hallucinating mental problems. And I've tried to rationalize all of this for being other stuff. But at this point, it's fairly obvious that it's not that. Ever since I can remember, I've been followed by it. I don't know what it is, but I never really minded it. From feeling like I'm being watched, seeing shadow figures, random scars, bruises, and scratches appearing, sometimes right in front of me with nothing that could have caused them, to hearing my name being called by people I know, only to find out that they never called me, even though I know they did. For the longest time, I disregarded it all, even when my clay doll that I used to represent me, which was at the back of my shelf, somehow fell onto the ground, not once, but twice. The first time being repairable, but the second time shattering it. I figured out around grade 6 that I was at least somewhat prone to paranormal experiences, but I hadn't connected anything, or I hadn't connected everything. I used to be extremely into creepypasta, and a lot of my experiences made me believe that Slender Man was real and that he wanted me as his proxy. I know, but I was a kid, so don't get after me. I know a good chunk of what I experienced was just my kid brain chalking normal things up to being him, but some things just aren't easily explained away by that. For example, I read a story that said things would happen after I read it and said that Jeff the killer would come and kill me that night. Now, the stuff at school that happened was easily just my mind playing tricks on me, but still, I panicked and ended up staying the entire night locked in the washroom. I had a knife with me and everything. I was so scared. I wasn't even tired and didn't fall asleep. At around 12 a.m. is when I heard footsteps, ones that I didn't recognize, coming up the stairs. They walked up to the washroom and tested the handle. When it was locked, they knocked on the door. And of course, me being a petrified little kid, didn't respond and sat there with my tiny kitchen knife frozen in place. They ended up pacing back and forth until 3 a.m. when they walked down the stairs and left. Now, of course, this wasn't Jeff the killer or anything like that, but nothing was stolen, no one was hurt, and there were no signs of a break in, and I was fully awake. So, what was that? About a year later, at my friend's birthday, we ended up playing some paranormal games, which I know is stupid, but I was a kid. The one that worked was cat scratch. But the thing was, when anyone else it was the main person telling the story, nothing happened. But then it was my turn to try. And when I told the story, the person who was receiving it was laying on my lap, ended up with a large red pronounced scratch mark on their back. Now, they weren't deep and it didn't hurt them, luckily. It was like when you scratch yourself, and it was irritated but darker, and they ended up lasting all night. I ended up doing it to all of them. Then one of my friends decided to try it on me, and it worked, not as well as when I did it, but it still worked. Unlike when they had done it to anyone else. The scratch marks lasted literally until the morning, which wouldn't make sense if they were accidental scratches. The dogs were also going crazy when that happened. Interesting. Now the main thing that's always consistent is the voices calling my name. I have heard them my entire life. The scratches haven't happened in about a year, but they weren't super bad. They were small scratches. I mean, some of them were fairly deep, but not too deep. The main thing that was really weird was that some left scars. For example, I once looked at my arm, looked away for a moment, and then looked back, and suddenly there was a scar that hadn't been there before. That always confused me. One thing that happened a year or so ago during the pandemic was when I was in the kitchen washing dishes. This was when I still lived with my parents, and suddenly I got this urge to look behind me. So I did, and there was this person. I don't know. Even right after it happened, my brain couldn't process what it looked like, but there was something behind me. I just stared at it for a few seconds before turning right back to doing the dishes. It took me a moment to realize what the heck was that. I tried to rationalize it as being my brother, but when I quickly turned around again, nothing was there. At the time, I was home alone. That was the first time I ever really saw it. Nothing was obviously bad. It didn't feel like it wanted to hurt me. Sure, the scratches, bruises, and scars weren't great, but they weren't that bad. They were just light. The voices were confusing, but not terrifying. The feeling of being watched was creepy, but it wasn't unbearable. This year, though, it's been different. I've always had bad luck, just bad things keep happening, but this year it's ramped up a lot. I got kicked out in early December and barely managed to move in with my roommate. So much has happened. My roommate's health has been declining badly over the last year, and doctors think they've been having seizures. We've also had a lot of pets die this year: 4 rats, 3 birds, and a kitten. Some of the deaths were expected, like one bird and an elderly cat, but others were strange. For example, one bird was perfectly healthy but was found dead on the floor with no injuries. The cage was open, the water was empty, and the food was dumped, even though I had just refilled everything the day before. What happened was I found out when I got home that this morning, right at 10:14, when my roommate woke up, this must have happened. The heater got turned on all the way to hot. Now, we don't turn on the heater. The heaters are always off because we have stuff on the heaters, like actual things. Everyone here knows that it doesn't get turned on, and even then, everyone was asleep. I wasn't home, and my roommates, let's call her A and partner B, woke up and realized that I had left. A had slept through her alarm, and she had to get to work and be there in 15 minutes, so they went and woke her up. She raced downstairs and left literally no time at all, got up immediately, and was gone. 5 minutes after they woke up, they smelled burning. When they went to see what was going on, they found the heater on, and it was so hot that they couldn't touch it. They went and looked at their thermostat in the room. Nothing had changed, but they had looked in the hallway and found it was completely on hot, fully at the end. Now, it couldn't have been the cats because none of them ever jump. They're lazy. But if they were to, it wouldn't have made sense that it would have been all the way at the complete opposite end and it would have been somewhere in the middle. There wasn't anything that could have knocked it, and no one would have. Even just the timing wouldn't have made sense. It would have meant the heater turned on literally right when B woke up because it takes 5 minutes for things to heat up, and 5 minutes after they woke up is when they started to smell the burning. Because of all that, and because of how the only thing that could have stopped was something turning it on like that, we were worried maybe it was trying to burn the house down. But that wouldn't have made sense, especially if it was the thing that had been following me, because it's never done anything that extreme. But then, because of the timing, it would have made sense for it to scare us instead of actually trying to burn the house down, which feels like a much smaller jump. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but the day before we had an experience they've only ever had once before, a ghost that actually hurt them years ago. Suddenly, all their hair just randomly stood up completely on end and they got goosebumps. That has only ever happened once before, and right after they had an experience with a ghost that hurt them and had just happened the day before yesterday. On top of that, their altar too, I believe Poseidon, they said, is feeling agitated. I've always wanted to figure out what's been following me, but now I feel like I need answers before it gets worse. If anyone knows anything or has advice, please let me know. Okay. First things first, I know nothing about Wiccans, so I'm gonna look that up. What is it? I believe that it's kind of like pagan. It's a nature-based religion that originated in the UK in the 1940s, and it's a modern interpretation of pre-Christian religions and cultures, and it's part of the contemporary pagan movement. Okay, so they believe in supernatural powers, magic, male and female deities. So it's very, yeah, it's very like mystical, magical type thing. That is absolutely terrifying, not gonna lie. Like I said, I've never experienced anything paranormal. But I feel like if my house was about to burn down and nobody touched it and we all know it, um, then I would absolutely freak out. I would probably like which I don't even know if that works, but I believe that energy has a lot of power. Clearly, we use energy for everything. That's how all of this is working, and how you're able to watch this video is through energy. Um, so I don't know. I feel like the human energy creates a a um, type of power that can help cleanse that stuff, especially if you have like the right intentions. But I don't know. My first thought too is also like I know they said this in the beginning, but like maybe having like multiple personality disorder and they don't remember doing certain things or whatever. I don't know. I mean, but they said that they got they've gone to psychologists and have gotten tested and they have nothing. So I have no idea, but that's really creepy and I would be really scared and I would probably cleanse my house, truthfully. Anyway, well, I hope that you are scared. I hope that you learn something new. I hope that your fitness journeys and your health journeys will be slightly improved by today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you are looking for any help with your goals this year, if you need a little bit of assistance, I am currently opening up my roster for coaching some more clients. So if that is something that you're interested in, please check out my website, performancebyk.com or www.performancebyk.com. Send in a application or even find me on Instagram at performance.by.k. And ask any questions that you guys have. I am excited to hear from you. I am excited to help you hit your goals, and we will move forward and chat further if I hear from you. And if not, I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to try to be posting a little bit more consistently on Mondays. So we will see you next week with another myth, but hope you guys have a good one, and talk to you later. Bye.